and every day we have swung wide the doors to the presence of God, knowing that Spirit is in this place and in all places and all people. Just as this beautiful sun has awakened us to a new day, the Spirit of God within awakens us to divine glory. And this glory within and around us is everywhere we look and in every situation we encounter. With our hearts centered in Spirit, we can quiet our thoughts and meditate on the wonder of all of God's creation and our oneness with it. So I invite you now to take a deep breath, become comfortable, and gently release any cares of the day. Your sole purpose at this moment is to experience the divine, and you begin to do so now as you relax in the sacred time and space at Unity Spiritual Center. Seeing through eyes of oneness, acknowledging our oneness, we at Unity Spiritual Center celebrate and honor people of every culture, of every creed, of every religion, of every race, of every age, and every lifestyle, knowing that there are many paths to God, many faces of God, many names for God, but only one God. And that God is expressing through all people in unique, special, and individual ways. As you look at the flame of the candle that we light every Sunday, remember that you yourself are a flame, that you yourself carry a divine flame within and are an individualized expression of God. We honor the one presence and power of God with Unity's foundation statement, which you'll find on the screen, and I invite you in saying it aloud with me together. There is only one presence and one power, active as the universe and as my life, God the good, omnipotent. We give thanks for our spiritual community and for the beauty of our spiritual center. We give thanks that Unity Spiritual Center is a welcoming, warm, and inclusive community dedicated to studying and putting into practice empowering principles and tools for happiness, health, prosperity, and successful living. We give thanks that with our spiritual teachings, we can create extraordinary lives and a peaceful planet through our relationship with the loving God presence within each of us and through our relationships with one another. Our vision and the opportunity for each one of us here is that you discover the power within you to create the life of your dreams, that you have peace of mind and deep happiness, that you enjoy joyous and loving relationships with yourself, with Spirit, and with others, that you spend your days doing what you love and feel called to do, and most of all, that you know that you make a difference, that your life matters, and that the world is a better place because you're here. If you're visiting us for the first time, and I know a couple of you are, we have two gifts that we'd like to give people. If you haven't received them already, please do raise your hand. We give out a shell lei, which has a tag on it that says, just as God has a design for every shell in the sea, God also has a design for your life. So if you would like this beautiful shell lei, not to be confused with a chalet. Evidently, we had one person come in and was wondering where her Swiss property was. But we do like to give out this chalet to remind you that you are special and that God does have a design for your life. We also give out packets of information about Unity in general and Unity Spiritual Center in particular. And in that packet, you'll find my contact information, and I'd like to invite you to give me a call if you're interested in talking about unity, if there's ever anything that you'd like to ask about or have a discussion about. Please don't hesitate to contact me using that information. Excuse me. We know that being around a table can give us a wonderful sense of connection, so that's why you see a couple tables in our sanctuary. It has a symbol of the connection and warmth, the hospitality that we can feel when gathered around a table together. We also, of course, set up food tables in the next room. So in the Fillmore room following our service, we'll have a spread, and we'd love to invite you to join us for that, where we can get to know you a little bit better. And I'm going to take this time to introduce two people. One doesn't need much of an introduction, and that's Patrick Maier. If you've been coming for a while, you know that he is our go-to left-hand person. He corrected me because he's actually left-handed, so he's our go-to guy when Michael Hatfield isn't here. So let's welcome Patrick again. And I also want to invite or tell you a little bit about our guest speaker today, who I had the pleasure of interviewing on my radio show on Wednesday. So if you'd like to hear more from him following the service, following the workshop he'll be doing later today, do check out the archives at unity.fm, because it was a really delightful interview, and Peter has a lot to draw from, as I'm going to sketch out for you right now. He's a memoirist with a lot to work with, because he's been employed in the U.S. Foreign Service as a high school English and art teacher. You could probably talk to Patrick, who's also a high school teacher, as a foreign language teacher, specializing in English, Spanish, and German. He's been in the military with the U.S. Air Force. He's been executive director of a nonprofit community center in San Francisco, and more. Now he has children's books to add to his resume, as well as 2 novels. But he recently discovered the delights of personal nonfiction. His memoir, King of Doubt, was released this year, and Peter now teaches Memoir and Mindfulness in various venues, including our own this afternoon. If you'd like to know more about Peter, do visit his website, petergibb.org. But for right now, let's just give him a warm welcome to USC. So let's do the hymn thing. Why don't we stand up for that as we sing, and Patrick will guide us through it.
Okay, so I'm going to need you're going to have to snap your fingers with me to keep some time. I'm finding that generating time, rhythm, is a very important element for all of us to be centered physically in the moment. So I'm going to show you the time feel, and then we'll sing it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. You got it. Look at that. 1, 2, perfect. And now we go. Now we keep playing, keep snapping. Beautiful. And you're going to chant this with me. Love, love will find a way. Love, love will find a way. Keep singing that. Love. Here I stand with an open heart, waiting to receive. Spirit will come to me, because I believe. Everybody now, love will find a way. Love will find a way. Everyone that is under the sun has the chance to grow ever closer to the one and the truth of all we know, singing our love. Love will find a way, keeping in love. Love will find a way. I will use all my thoughts and prayers to help me understand. We are blessed and all divine. Come and take my hand. I sing to you, love. Love will find a way. Love will find a way. One more time I say love. Love will find a way. Love will find a way. Yeah, give yourselves a hand, folks. We're keeping time.
So now as we continue to get comfortable in our seats, relaxing even more deeply into this time of worship, prayer, and meditation, let's open our hearts now to receive the message of today's daily word. Is there anyone here who would like to read the daily word? Ron Willis with today's daily word.
Good morning. Sunday, May 7th, 2017. Prosperity is the word. The abundance of the universe flows to me. I accept it with joy and gratitude. Some people may think of prosperity as something to be earned or a goal to be achieved. In spiritual truth, prosperity is a natural expression of divine love, the infinite essence of all life. Prosperity flows abundantly through every atom in the universe and through every cell of my body. If my prosperity feels stifled, I know that any limitations are of my own making. Perhaps I'm forgetting to stay vigilant against such thoughts when they appear. Not to worry, such negative thoughts are dissolved as I appreciate the many ways in which prosperity is already expressing in my life. My prosperity comes when I experience more of God. I open my heart to receive and accept the abundance of the universe. And the scripture reading is from Luke 12:32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
Thank you, Ron. Unity Spiritual Center is a place of prayer and healing. Craig brought up our prayer chest to place on the altar, so you can look at it throughout the service, and when you do, just hold those prayer requests that are inside in your heart. And let's just know together that divine love is enfolding each person represented in that prayer chest, and that divine order is taking place for all concerned. The prayer requests that are placed in the box are prayed on by me and our USC prayer team for 30 days, and then they're forwarded to Silent Unity at Unity's World Headquarters, where they're prayed on for an additional 30 days. If you'd like to place a request in the box, the green prayer request forms are on the table in the back, and you are always invited to do so. But we also have created a place in our service where you can make your prayers audible. So this is the time where you can make your prayer needs known to your spiritual family so that we can support you and stand with you. So Patrick is going to lead us in the introduction, which is a call and response. After he's finished with that introduction, you're invited to speak your prayer aloud, and we will answer each prayer request with "Your prayer is our prayer too."
We are connected by the heart. Where do you end? And where do I start? Whatever you feel, I feel too. You're a part of me. I'm a part of you. Your prayer is my prayer too. Your prayer is my prayer too. I'm praying for my mother's recovery from a broken hip and surgery. Your prayer is my prayer too. Your prayer is my prayer too.
give thanks for this opportunity to bless and to be blessed in spirit. We give thanks for the feelings of connection, of peace and warmth that fill our hearts and our minds right now. We give thanks for the privilege of praying for others, for praying for those in our community, our nation, and around the globe. And we affirm that always and in all ways, divine love and divine order is everywhere present. At Unity Spiritual Center, your prayer is our prayer too. Amen.
So this is a song ties into the idea of memoirs and remembering and things like that, and all the ideas or experiences and people that course through your consciousness as you grow. And it's called The Back of My Mind. Caught my reflection in the looking glass, felt generations calling from the past. Like a drummer on the second line, I'm marching on to the end of time with you in the back of my mind. Bridges crossed and bridges burned, some bitter tears and some lessons learned. Staring up at a cloudless sky, singing songs from days gone by, and you in the back of my mind. We throw pebbles into the pond and watch the ripples grow. And when you're quiet, you can feel the sound of words spoke long ago. And late at night when my thoughts do roam, I feel the heartbeat of a happy home. Something greater than a place or a time. Only love is what I long to find in you, in the back of my mind. We wander through this world alone, trying hard not to break. Cynics sing their songs of woe, they forget what love can make. Late at night, when my thoughts do roam, I feel the heartbeat of a happy home. Something greater than a place or time, 'cause it's only love that I long to find. Back of my mind, and it's you in the back of my mind, and it's you in the back of my mind.
You in the back of my mind. So lovely. It's so wonderful to be here. You know, I think many people perhaps in the San Francisco Bay Area, I've driven up and down 19th Avenue so many times, and looked at this building and thought, oh my God, what a wonderful spot that must be. This is my first time inside, and it's even better inside. It's so delightful to be here. Unity has played a very strong role in my life and was responsible for my long-awaited midlife spiritual rebirth. Too long-awaited. But my wife Wendy and I lived in Marin for many years, and we were very active in Unity in Marin there. And so it has a I have a very fond place in my heart for Unity. But that's not the story that I'm here to tell today. That's for another day. So I'd like to actually start off with a story. It's a story about a monastery that had once been a very proud and beautiful place, but had fallen upon hard times. And this included the abbot, who was getting near the end of his tenure, and was distressed that the institution which he had devoted himself to for so many years was not doing very well. The weeds were growing outside, and the stones were falling. The pathway that led up to the monastery was kind of falling apart. And the front door, when you pushed the front door, didn't open properly. And if you walked in, there was sort of a sense of gloom and doom there. So this was not a good picture. And the old abbot knew that he was soon to retire, and he desperately wanted this monastery to thrive and survive, but he didn't know what to do. So he racked his brains and thought of everything he could, and he called. There were only 3 monks left in the monastery, and so he called them together, and he exhorted them to do whatever they could to bring the monastery back to life, but none of them seemed to know what to do either. And he went out into the local town, and he tried to drum up interest and find some new monks who might want to join the monastery, but nothing happened. And in fact, it was clear that the monastery was going down, down, down. And then he heard about a wise hermit who had lived not too far away. And he thought, well, this is my last desperate attempt. I'll go and talk to the hermit and see if he, in fact, can give me an idea for what to do. So he walked 2 days across the mountains and valleys and found the hermit, and went into the cave, and he asked the hermit, what can I do for my monastery? I really fear it's on its last legs. Can you tell me? I've tried everything I can think of. Can you tell me what I might do? And there was a long silence, and then the hermit shook his head and he said, I'm really sorry, but I don't have a solution for you. So the abbot was even more crestfallen. He was going to have to go back to the monastery without a solution. And he looked down, and as he was looking down, the hermit said, well, I do have one thing to say to you. One of the 3 monks in your monastery is the Christ. The abbot looked at him, kind of startled, thought for a minute. When he looked back, the hermit was gone. So he walked back to the monastery, wondering what to make of all of this, kind of crestfallen because he didn't really have a solution. And so when he got back to the monastery, he called the monks together, and they said, well, how did it go? And he said, well, it didn't go very well. I don't have a solution. However, the hermit told me one thing that was rather interesting. He said that one of you is the Christ. And all of a sudden, the monks kind of straightened themselves up a little bit and sat up a little taller. And over the next couple of weeks, the weeds magically seemed to disappear. And the stones that were broken seemed to be put back together, and even the front door that had not opened properly in years began to open. And then a young man showed up and said, I would like to join the monastery. And bit by bit, people began to join the monastery, and people began to smile, and the monastery came back to life. And lo and behold, when the abbot was ready to retire, he was fully aware that this monastery was a thriving place and once again would play its proper role in the community. This is a story, and the importance of the story is that, in one sense, nothing changed, and in another sense, everything changed. And this is the power of story in our lives. If you're in this room, you have a story to tell. And telling your story can be, I know, one of the most powerful things that you can choose to do in your life. You're studying power and the unity principles this month, and I would like you to think about how telling story can be such a powerful thing to do. We have a story, but do you even know what your story is? It's my belief that many of us don't know what our story is, and one of the ways of finding out is by writing it and telling it. And of course, one of the tools for doing that is memoir, which I'm very focused on these days, because I discovered that writing my memoir was perhaps one of the most empowering things that I had ever done. And I began to write it. I really did not know what my story was. I knew what the facts of my life were, but I didn't know what my story was until I really got into writing what is now published and called King of Doubt. I'd like to read you a little bit from this book, because it's a different kind of story from the story I just told you, but the two have something in common, which I'll talk about after I read it. So I'm going to read you a little bit of a condensed version from chapter 1 in the interest of time. I'm going to condense it, but I think you'll get the sense of it. The story takes place in Scotland, where I began school, and it takes place, I'm 5 years old at the time of this story. "Are you ready, lads?" When the master's voice boomed, even the rain paused to listen. 23 lads squirmed, waiting for the start of the race. Toes twitched and eyes searched. Wee ones were these boys, but fierce as the weather that slammed in from the Atlantic, thrashing the west coast of Scotland. My lips quivered. I needed to pee. 23 lads scratched their private parts. Parents stomped their soaked galoshes and fidgeted with the buttons on their slickers. "On your marks!" The master's voice again, and the boys squeezed tight their bottoms. 23 pairs of shoes pawed the mud, racehorses chomping at the starting gate, muscles taut. My shoelace was untied. My shorts hung low. I was no racehorse. Made in the USA from different stock than the Scots, I was the only Yank, and a scrawny one at that. "Get set!" 23 hearts thumped eagerly. One heart trembled. "Go!" And off they went, toes and feet and legs and arms, small but mighty, intrepid soldiers of fortune, sloshing through the mud of win or die. 23 muddied bodies, one burning heart, anxious, but not about winning. Will they like me? Was the fire that stoked that one smoldering heart. We were at Campus doing school for boys in Ayr, Scotland, my first school, my first field day. I hoped there would never be another. The pack surged forward, and then suddenly a gasp from the crowd. What is it? What's happened? It's Harold. He's Harold, the fastest boy in Scotland, slipped. He righted himself. He slipped again, and now he was down in the mud, and behind him McDougall tripped over Harold, and then Buchanan and Burns, and following them MacDonald and McBride and Calhoun, falling all over one another, tripping in the mud, screeching like cracked bagpipes, trying to get up, tripping sideways and backwards and slipping and sprawling and stumbling. And then Bruce and McGregor glanced over their shoulder to see, and down they went too. Boys in the mud and groans in the crowd. A father's voice sounded the national alarm. "Blimey, would you look at that little bugger on the end?" The wee one. The Yank, isn't it? He's the only one still standing, and he's going to win the bloody race. The master's voice was drawn and glum. So I won the race. I'll skip over that part, but just to fill in a little detail here. Happened. The master's face was drawn and glum. He patted my head, and we posed for a photo. He slipped me the prize. Well, laddie, here you go. Just like a sneaky Yank found a dry patch of ground over yonder, you did. The prize was a box of toy soldiers. I held them tight to my chest, as if these 10 tin figures could rescue me from shame. I didn't deserve the prize. I stared at the carnage on the field. No, I screamed, and the rain swallowed my wail. We sat around the kitchen table at dinner the night of the race. Dad smiled and clapped his hands. What a lad, you bloody well showed him. I loved my dad. Of course, I never told him. Words like love were shoved to the back shelf of the junk closet in our house, wedged between old magazines and broken pencils. Looking at my prize soldiers gave me nightmares. I dreamed the boys from Campus Dune were coming after me, their eyes on fire, their bayonets fixed, like the soldiers, ready to gore me. At dinner the next night, I couldn't eat. Mom gave me an extra helping of pudding. For the fastest boy in Form 1, she said. I shoved my pudding away. Peter, what's the matter? I ran from the table. They're coming to take the soldiers away, coming to take me away. Winning the race didn't make them like me. It made them hate me more. I am a fake. The masters know it. The lads know it. Everyone knows it now. I made up a story that explained it all. I won a race. My parents applauded, assuming that coming in first meant I was a winner. But can you claim victory if you win a race and lose your soul? I was a loser. I was unworthy, a fake, and maybe even a cheat. Year after year, I refined my story, packing in additional evidence of my nobodiness. The first time you tell a story about yourself, it's just that, a story. The second time you tell the same story, it becomes a theory. And by the third time, it is morphed into the truth, incontrovertible, self-evident, and eternal. I told myself my loser story first thing in the morning and last thing at night, on the playground and at dinner, over and over, and day after day, year after year, until it became me. I became the story. I became the fraud. I didn't realize that the fraud story I told myself was one of 1,000 thoughts. I didn't realize that the fraud story, like all thoughts, was real, but not necessarily true. I didn't realize that I had signed a pact with the devil. I'd be a fraud. I'd cut away my heart if that's what it took to make others approve of me. The deal banished me from society deep into the dungeons of self-doubt, where the lost souls of life roam in the dark catacombs, reserved for the living and the damned. The next day, when Mom and Dad were upstairs, I threw the soldiers into a bag. I fetched Dad's hammer from the chest in the front hallway, took the bag out to the front steps, and smashed the soldiers into 100 pieces. I dug a hole in the garden and buried the pieces as deep as I could. And then I came back inside, returned the hammer to the chest in the front hallway, and sat down as if nothing had happened. As soon as he came downstairs, Dad noticed. He shook his head. Where is your prize? Where are the soldiers? I didn't answer. He dropped it, and Mom never asked. As far as I know, the soldiers' remains are still buried deep in that hole under the Scottish mud. We lived in Scotland for one more year. We never talked about the soldiers or the race again. So that's chapter 1 of The King of Doubt. And the reason that I tell these two stories is that although they're very different stories, they have a lot in common. And what they have in common is the power of story to either heal you or destroy you. The first story about the monastery, of course, was about the power of story to heal you. And the second story, my personal story, is about how I cultivated doubt to a place where it almost destroyed me. Worked hard to. So again, I want to invite you to think about your story. What is the story that you tell yourself? Because we all tell ourselves stories. You may tell your story to your partner or your spouse or a friend or your parent or a child or whomever. But the person that most of us tell our stories to most frequently is ourselves. It's the chatter that goes on in the back of our mind. And that chatter is hugely, hugely important. The self-doubt story that I discovered, in fact, in depth as I was writing this book, I never really fully appreciated until I wrote the book. And I realized that it was the story, but even more than the story, it was the shame that I carried around about that story, that I kept the story hidden for 4 decades. And the worst thing that I thought that could possibly happen to me was that somebody might discover that story. That would be disaster. I worked as hard as I could to keep that story inside, to keep it hidden. And then when I wrote this memoir, suddenly there was no more keeping it inside. It was out there. And the most amazing thing happened. The shame disappeared. There's huge power in telling your story. And one of the most best ways that I know of doing that is to write a memoir. Memoir, in my mind, is what can help you claim the past. Own your past, and that is the way, one of the main ways in which it becomes a positive force in your life rather than a negative force. So I encourage you to consider that. Later on, I'm going to be doing an introductory workshop this afternoon that will give you some of the ways to get started in combining memoir and mindfulness. It's a great run if you're interested. So I'd like to turn now from the stories. You've probably got by now that I'm a big believer in story. But I want to turn away from story and go deeper, perhaps, and do a little guided visualization across space and time, and maybe help you discover something that may be part of your story, even perhaps a long forgotten part of your story. So if you would, I'd like you to get comfortable, relax, and take a few deep breaths and feel the air just coming in through your nose and down into your chest, filling you up. Breathe in and out. And relax and let go of any tension you might have. Let go of any thoughts, let go of any feelings. Perhaps close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. You don't need to do anything at all except for let go. And I invite you now on, as I said, a trip across space and time. I'd like you to come with me to a mountain lake. See if you can visualize in your mind a mountain lake, a lovely lake. The mountains in the background, a few clouds in the sky, but the sun is shining, and the lake is placid. Just stand there and look at the lake. And on the edge of the lake, On the shore, you're going to see a very small boat. Come with me, if you will. Let's get in the boat. It's a very special boat. You don't need to propel it at all. It knows where it's going. Ride in the boat out into the lake. We're going to go for a swim in the lake. It's very safe, whether you know how to swim or not. You do right now. You can breathe underwater. It's going to be light underwater. The water is warm. There's nothing to worry about. So I'd like you now, let's go into the water and dive down. Swim easily and gently. You can breathe. It's warm. You're surrounded by love. There's nothing to fear. Allow yourself to go down a little deeper and a little deeper until, in fact, you reach the bottom of the lake. It's light down there. You can see. Put your bare feet on the ground at the bottom of the lake and walk around and just experience this lake for a moment. Feel the sand between your toes. Feel the warm water rippling across your body. And as you look around, you're going to see a small box. And on it is written the word toys. I'd like you to go over to this box and examine it. You'll see that it has a latch on it, and in fact, the box is locked. But in your pocket, you have a magical key. Take out the key and open the latch, and then open the box. And as you open it, you will see there a favorite object from your childhood. Something that you knew and loved when you were a small child. Look at that object and remember for a moment what it meant to you. Maybe it's a doll, or maybe it's a toy, or maybe it's a box of something, or whatever, but something that you loved. I'd like you to pick it up and feel all over it. Just run your hands across it. Remember what it was like to hold that object. Note its characteristics. Is it hard or is it soft? Is it sharp or is it rounded? Is it large or is it small? Hold that object even closer to your heart. Hold it next to you and remember what it meant for you. You were a child again, and you were with a favorite object. As you quiet and listen to this object, it has a message for you. The message may be in words, or it may just be a feeling. But I'd like you to listen very, very closely and see if you can hear the message that it has for you. Just take it in, nothing else to do. hold that message in your heart. And in just a minute, we're going to put this very special object back in the box. But know that it's there for you anytime you want it. You can come back to this special place, and it will be there. Thank it for whatever the gift is that it has given you. Return it to the box. Close the box. And lock the box again and put the key back in your pocket. It will always be there for you. And when you're ready, slowly swim back up to the surface of the lake and get in the boat, return to the shore, and when you're ready, open your eyes and come back to this room. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Peter, so much for that really intriguing introduction to Memoir and Mindfulness. I thought of a toy I hadn't thought of in many, many years. Did anybody else? That was an amazing meditation. Thank you so much. So, as you can see, we have a lot of riches in unity. Unity offers positive, practical, and progressive spiritual teachings and tools that honor the universal truths in all religions and respects each individual's right to choose a spiritual path. And here at Unity Spiritual Center, we have an inspiring vision, exciting mission, and compelling values by which we strive to live. So I invite you again to please join with me in saying them aloud. Our vision is centered in God. We co-create a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. Our mission is we are a creative, joy-filled spiritual community dedicated to healing, inspiring, and transforming the lives of all people through prayer, education, and love. And our values are, we are spirit-led, generous with resources, inclusive, joyously creative, and guided by integrity. And in this space, feeling inspired by our vision, our mission, our values, feeling enriched by what we've experienced here today, let us take time now to be a channel for enrichment through our generous tithes and love offerings. Practicing the principle of tithing ourselves as a spiritual community, we are pleased to tithe 10% of the offering collected today to Unity Worldwide Ministries and to the San Francisco Food Bank. So let us take a moment now to bless our tithes and love offerings, holding them in our hands or perhaps placing them next to our heart as we say our offertory prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Okay, so let me switch that back. This is a song I've written, and it's called Take Your Seat at the Table. And as we were talking about the prosperity message at the beginning of there's an abundance for all of us, and then the idea that you have a story to tell, and then this is your chance to be seated at the table, and it's a metaphor for the tables obviously we have in the back where we sit around and talk at tables oftentimes. So Mr. Gibb's reflections on his time and his story. And so I'm going to ask you to sing along with me a little bit later, so get ready to stand up and chant and clap. Are you ready for that? Okay, good. And the other thing I want to say about this song is it's a very interesting time in our society, and I'm a high school teacher, and I teach down on the peninsula, and it's a very, I would say, almost too prosperous time in a certain sense, is that there's a certain dissatisfaction or an uncertainty about the value of what we're grabbing for in this country. And I see it in my students. I think there's a troubling aspect to the idea of we have so much wealth now in the society. The aggregate wealth of the United States is $92 trillion. That's what we all own together, $92 trillion. But I don't see us being as happy or secure as maybe that should grant us, which is a fascinating thing to see. So I just want us to think about that and where we're really trying to gain prosperity from. And this is a song called Take Your Seat at the Table. Take your seat at the table. See what love can provide. If you're willing and able, no more hunger inside. Take your seat at the table. Let your heart be fulfilled. Take your seat at the table. Let your spirit be filled. Looking for answers when times get tough. So many people not getting enough. Yes, there is abundance in this house of a prayer. When we finally surrender, oh, then we all share. Take your seat at the table. See what love can provide. If you're willing and able, no more hunger inside. Take your seat at the table. Let your heart be fulfilled. Take your seat at the table. Let your spirit be built. Now, if you've been looking for a wealth untold, you must remember it's spirit that is gold. 'Cause there is love everlasting. It will nourish your soul. There's more than enough. Pass that dinner roll. Come on, take your seat at the table. Our love can provide. If you're willing and able, there's no more hunger inside. No, no, no. Take your seat at the table. Let your heart be fulfilled. That's right, put your hands together. Take your seat at the table. Let your spirit be built. Now if you can put your hands together, folks. Are you going to sing along? Here we go. Take your seat. Take your seat at the table. I said, take your seat. At the table. I like what I'm hearing. Take your seat. I like at the table. All right, take your seat. Now, at the table. Take your seat at the table. Yeah, yeah. See what love can provide. If you're willing and able, no more hunger inside. No, no, no. seat at the table. Let your heart be fulfilled. Take your seat at the table. Let your spirit rebuild. Let your spirit rebuild. Let your spirit rebuild. Now, so yeah, put your hands in the air. I like that. Come on now. Come on now. You got to let your spirit grow. Let it grow. Don't stop now. Let your story be told somehow, some way, somehow. You got to let it come out now. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, Patrick. It's always great to have you here. We have a lot to be thankful for, so please join me in our offertory prayer. Dear God, we give you thanks for the many blessings that are in our church this very moment. We open
Ourselves to the infinite possibilities that are ours to choose. We are filled with the mighty faith that empowers and frees us to live our divine purpose, serve our community with excellence. And so it is. Amen.
I'm going to use the mic, Andrew, just to give you a look at all the things that we've got coming up. Today is a great day to be here. I'm so glad all of you are here. As Peter and I have mentioned, we are offering a wonderful opportunity for you to get to know a little bit more about Memoir and how it can be used as a healing tool for transformation, for mindfulness. So please join us back here in the sanctuary at 1 o'clock for the workshop. The cost of the workshop is $30, which includes a copy of Peter's book, or $20 without the book. It's going to be great, as you got a taste of this morning. So please do join us for that. But before you join us for that, please come to the Fillmore Room, where we have one of our most popular fundraisers happening, our jewelry fundraiser. Abby, do you want to say anything about that?
Come and shop for your mom, for yourself. We have some good things and the prices are low, so roll it up.
That's right, just in time for Mother's Day. We've got this wonderful jewelry fundraiser for you. Later in the month, we're going to be offering a Reiki 2 class. That's going to be on the 19th and 20th. So if you've taken Reiki 1 and you'd like to deepen your skills, please join us for that. We're also offering, as you know, if you've been attending for a while, we're offering a creative salon one Saturday each month to deepen our understanding of that particular month's power. We've been studying the 12 powers this year, and the power for May is power. So we're going to be doing a creative salon on power on Saturday, October 27th. It will be wonderful, led by a local artist. And last but not least, we have our very popular Memorial Day barbecue happening on Sunday, May 28th. It's a lot of fun, and we have dedicated grillers. It's always a wonderful potluck. People bring delicious food, so please do plan on joining us for our barbecue on the 28th. And with that, we will bring in our kids.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Hello everyone. So today it's kind of a secret. Can't really tell you what we did, but what we can tell you is that we worked with watercolor and markers. And Cassie, you want to share the idea that we did this with? It's a secret. Yeah, so they really wanted to keep it secret. That's why that everything is in the.
That's why you can't share the beautiful art.
Yeah. Yep, but
That's how it
that
goes.
was our activity for today. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Please join with me in blessing our children. We love you.
We bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the presence of God in you, empowering you to do great things.
Let's join in a circle and sing a peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be our moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
That whatever story of ours needs healing, you can heal it because the light of God surrounds us.
The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever I am, God is. And all is well. Thank you, God. Thanks, man. Really, man, it helps me out so much. Thank you.